Hello, I'm Miskatu Mesk. We're going to do a cast of the first of two games that were played on Saturday, the 26th of February, 2022. The current time of this recording is 6:50 p.m. February 27th, 2022. So, coughing begins. All right. Damn it. You're gonna hear me chewing on a cough drop for a little while here. So, a little bit of background for this game. Okay, so if we're looking at the teams are Ricky Honejasi, who is French, Bill, who is an emu, High Zealot, who is most certainly very high, Zilla, who is definitely supplying him edibles, and then Stick of Poonag. We are... my team is Thigh Lolly, Higgs, myself, and then Q10 Men Ass. So, there's been some changes to the map, and before I get into all that, preface this a little bit. First of all, this is the first of two games, but it's actually the second game I'm going to cast. I casted the first one, being the second game, earlier this morning before I went to bed, because HKS had the replay for that one, but not for this one. So I had to wait for Ricky to get out of his bagel heap and send me this one. So this is being casted in reverse. This is more relevant for the second game than it is for this one, because this game has some pretext set up for that second game. We talk a lot about Carrion Swarm and some of the other, balancing and stuff like that. Kind of get more thick into that. In this game, though, I'm not really going to talk a lot about that, but I am going to preface this a little bit because the map has been updated since then. So you will notice that HKS went ahead and made all the hidden heroes normally selectable. I will talk a little bit about heroes and power budgets and stuff like that in the next video, so I'm going to get extensively into that. But it is worth noting that Men, is on an angle here because he is too close to that cliff. So, if we go to the Alliance side, it is the same thing. Now, the strange thing about the Alliance side is that there is two Furians. And I think that one of them is supposed to be the non-goat Furian, actually. But there's two of them on, yeah. Their stat distribution is different. So that will be very confusing, because one of them is supposed to be the non-goat Furian, the leg day Furian. So it is 5 versus 4. And coming into this match, with it being 5 versus 4, I decided I was going to actually try to take the game a little seriously. Otherwise, we were kind of guaranteed to lose. So, even if I took it seriously, there was no guarantee we were going to win anyways. It was just, I was going to put in a little bit of effort. So this is a game I put in a little bit of effort into. Tyranno's on an angle too. And there'll be a little bit of effort in this game. So that means I'm going to take Carrion Swarm first. I'm going to go Caster and Wave Clear because I'm not going to depend on anybody else to do really aggressive wave clearing on our group. And I'm going to try to play a little bit more safely in this game. And try to be a little more restrained in some ways. And yeah. So, let's begin, because that's really all the context we need, because the map actually has a creep respawning system, but it's buggered up. I'll talk more about that in the next video. And there's some other minor changes as well, but some of them are like half fixes and stuff like that, so there's not really like a lot of them. So, the enemy team is going to take some interesting builds. We're going to see Stick and Bill both pick Furion, and both of them are basically going to go summons. Ricky has picked a hero that has one of those innate abilities that needs to be changed, which is, I believe, 4 times chance for 8 times critical damage. So that's kind of stupid. Zilla has picked a hero that carries an anchor, and he's the Anchor Man. And he has a passive that spawns like a bash, a damage effect on attack start. So he can actually stop spam and just proc it constantly. High Zealot's hero has the Parasite ability. High Zealot's going to go like Forked Lightning and some other stuff. We'll see them pick it on Ricky's side here. Whereas Zilla's going to go kind of tanky with auras. So Q comes down here with me for what ultimately is going to be a 2 versus 2 lane. Q is going to go yeah, Blast Staffs and Windwalk. But he's also going to take War Stomp. And I think this guy's innate ability might be War Stomp as well. Yeah, no, it's like a Thunderclap. Okay, so he has Thunderclap. Maybe he took Thunderclap and he had War Stomp as his... I'm not really sure, but man, he burns his mana really quickly. So I'm immediately noticing that the beetles give about 20 gold or something a kill, which is not as much as a normal minion, but it's still kind of a lot. So I try to get last hits on those as much as possible. So you will notice the fact that despite the fact there's 2 of us, I'm already level 2. And Q, I think, came to the lane a little bit later than I did, and he's already almost level 2. XP is split amongst heroes, I believe, so the solo hero should have been higher level than us. Q is going to go back, and now it's 2 versus 1. Basically, Stick waited to be able to pick up the beetles after Bill did. Now what's going to happen here is I am going to attempt to use... Carrion Swarm to last hit, and I'm also going to try to use Sylvanas' innate ability, which is the kind of shitty Orb of Destruction, but does add a little bit of extra damage to try to last hit some stuff. So I was trying to be a little bit more proactive about last hitting, but I wasn't sure really what they were doing until I realized both of them had beetles. I figured one of them would have an offensive spell, but it turns out that's not the case. So I start using Carrion Swarm to last hit a little bit. So I'm already level 3. Bill's getting close to level 3. And Q has returned. So they're getting kind of low. They're eating a lot of poke. I do believe that the units do have different collision sizes in this, so Furion has kind of a large profile and will take AoE damage quite easily. So perhaps the most powerful thing about Carrion Swarm early on is the fact that its mana cost is not really that high. I think it might be 75, 80 or something like that. Either way, I'm being kind of conservative about it. So Q goes back pretty soon. He's only here for a short amount of time. Every time I'm killing a beetle, I'm getting about 20 or so gold from it. So I'm trying to get as many last hits on the beetles as I can while being relatively safe, because I'm still not really sure what it is they're doing. Now, both of them have healing abilities as their innates, so getting kills on them is not really going to happen. But you will notice that my creep score is already 17. A chunk of those are beetles and not minions, but I have been able to secure minion kills as well. Which means I'm having a lot of gold income in this game. Meanwhile, top lane, HKS has the Devour ability and devoured a rifleman. But he is in a 1v2 lane and he's kind of getting sassed. Ricky dies. So I went back, I leveled up Carrion Swarm. I decided I was gonna save my lumber for Carrion Swarm, because I figured if they're gonna keep summoning beetles, I want to be able to one-shot those right away, especially when they get experience. It turns out they're going to double down on summons, and Bill ends up taking Feral Spirit. Feral Spirit has 200 health, and the beetles have 140. Now, I am not 100% sure if you get global experience in this map. I don't think you do, but if you do, then us being on the 4 team is going to feed us a ton of experience. I was going to go mid, but I didn't actually see Thyloli there. I thought Thyloli had went back. I was going to go to mid. But then I realized he was actually there, and I was halfway down the lane. So I did grab the fortified thing just to prevent them from taking out the towers. Q ends up taking Frost Armor, which is actually ridiculously strong against these two because they don't do any magic damage at all. They don't have offensive spells right now. So you'll also notice that Q is, despite the fact Q has not been in lane very much, he is bearing them for experience. I believe Thyloli will go wards, animate dead later on, and something else I forget. So I have, I believe, level 3, possibly spent some gold to get level 4 Carrion Swarm. But they can sustain my poke. Oh, one of them has feedback, I think. So I didn't really want to poke them a lot because I wanted them to come out of their base because I knew Q had a stun. But they're gonna die. Because they're tanking me and the Demolishers. Oh, and then Q has Windwalk. So he comes down there and secures me another kill. That's 2 kills right off the bat. I can't remember if kills give 1 or 2 lumber, but they do give lumber. That's a really huge boost at this stage in the game. Meanwhile, in top lane, HKS is able to consistently push this lane. Oh, Ricky just fishing for those crits is very French. Meanwhile, Thyloli is having an alright time in middle. He hasn't really had many problems. I don't think he's died or anything yet. The wards will push against Zilla because Zilla has no pushing strength at the stage. Although he will get some auras. He currently has Vampirism aura. So I go back. I invested into... I believe I contemplated upgrades. I will continue to invest into Carrion Swarm, maybe? It's very possible I will take Mass Teleport very early. I'm like looking at the upgrades, I believe. I was contemplating what to do. This gives Q a chance to catch up on levels. It does take villains take a while to come down to the bottom. You'll notice that Q is already halfway through level 5. And Villa's only halfway through level 4. This experience difference is basically the summons. Q has not been in lane for a long time up until this stage where he's stuck around because no one's been there. I'm not there at the moment, so Q is soaking up some solo experience, but he is still competitive and then even exceeding them because the summons give bounty when they die. So even if he's nearby, he's getting more experience from them. It's like having extra waves. So Thyloli comes down here. High Zealot comes here with Zilla and they push this lane. Steak is just sitting there taking damage from the tower, and then he dies. I'm not really sure what he expected for that. By the way, I'm level 7 now, because the Carrion Swarm kills the minions. Q is thirsty. So at this stage, Carrion Swarm, I believe, is still the only spell I have. The early lumber plus the extra gold I was getting, I believe I turned that into lumber. I may have spent some of it on upgrades, but I will turn it into lumber eventually. So they double down. More beetles and bears. The dual lanes on their side are having a hard time with experience. High Zealot only just hit level 6. Ricky's about halfway through level 6, and HKS is halfway through level 7. Meanwhile, Q is just about level 7. Steak is still just barely level 5. But he did take Acid Bomb. The problem is Acid Bomb is not really amazing until later on. And they're not getting a health from levels, so they're really going to be relying on their sustain. However, I don't have Brilliant Sora, and Carrion Swarm becomes quite meta hungry at this stage. So my kill threat on them is actually going to diminish because I can't poke them as much. That said, since they continue to summon beetles, I will continue to get experience. Also, the Acid Bomb is slowly doing some damage to me.
Our allies' town is under siege.
Meanwhile, top lane is being pushed because Ricky is quite ineffectual at this stage. Middle is still struggling to kill these towers because neither of these two really do that much damage either.
Our forces are under attack.
So it's not just that the bottom lane is struggling a little bit. It's that... Oh, HKS has Chain Death Coil. Yeah. So I have Mass Teleport already. And I hit level 9 now. As a comparison, High Zealot's only halfway through level 6. So my experience lead is only going to increase substantially. We come down here to... we were going to mess around with the creeps. This does give Steak and Build a chance to get some experience, some money, and push us in a little bit. There's a bear and 1,000 beetles. Oh yeah, so Thyloli has Entangle. And then I think his innate ability is the Firebolt that does damage. We tried to kill the Hydra, but I was like, no, I don't want to die. And then they went out of sight, and I was like, oh, they might be leashing, and I can shoot them. But... one of them took a shot, and I died. So we didn't accomplish too much. Thyloli retreats, goes back to mid, and Steak and Bill do push bottom. They are still not level 7. So they've been given free reign over the lane, but they're so far behind on experience compared to the bottom laners in particular. It's absolutely insane. Q now has a blast staff and is going to follow Bill around shooting him with it. Meanwhile, Zilla died to minions. HKS is still chilling out over here. He might have been waiting for me, but I went to bottom lane. And with Q's assistance, who had otherwise been sitting there invisible for half the time, we kill one of them. At this stage, I still think I only have the 2 spells, although I will eventually take Acid Bomb. It really doesn't do too much for me for a long time. High Zealot takes Mana Drain. Ricky, I believe, will take Berserk. I go back. I will go back and aggressively level those abilities. And then eventually I will also take Shadow Strike, which I really don't get too much use out of. I wasn't sure what to do. I had so much lumber at that point. But one of the main changes to the map is the spell buy cooldown has been reduced a little bit. So I wouldn't have been able to level up Carrion Swarm as much as I had before if the spell cooldown was what it used to be. But really, the big thing is that I got so many early kills. And now because I have mass teleports so early as well, you know, because I had so much free lumber, I can continue to ride that success and abuse the level advantage. So I start looking across the map for targets that look like I can chase or kill them. And here I don't have any. I don't have Brilliant Sword though, so my damage is all front loaded, and it's mostly the level advantage is carrying me. At this stage, I don't know that Ricky has that stupid passive critical thing. So I realize Ricky doesn't seem to do anything, and I wonder what his gimmick is supposed to be. And since the crit never goes off, I never really noticed that. Oh, he got Howl of Terror. That literally does nothing against HKS because HKS, I think, gets Thorns. No, maybe not. No Thorns. He has the other auras, though. At this stage, right now, what I'm doing is I'm just slowly dwindling Ricky's health, getting him low. Anticipating that Ricky is going to be greedy enough to not realize I have a nuke that I can use to finish him. However, I miscalculated how much health Ricky would lose, and he gets away. Plus, the acid bomb does like no damage, so I missed my chance to kill him. So I'm level 12. Bottom lane has still been left alone for the most part, but they're so far behind on levels 7 and 8. I end up leaving them alone at this point because I was trying to kill Ricky because killing Ricky is more satisfying. But also, I kind of wanted to push them back in their base. So at this stage, I'm going to go bot. I should go bot, yeah. So there's Shadow Strike. I kind of wanted it for the slow effect, but I should have really taken Stormbolt. They sustain the damage, and the minions do a lot at this stage. So I'm right up to halfway through level 12, just like that. It's not just the minions, it's also the summons. Acid bombs are exchanged. Steak tries to run. Steak is heckled along the way. I'm waiting for mana. And finally the mana comes. So yeah, level 13 now. Level 8, level 9. And these two have been pushing almost uncontested in the middle for a long time. Dual lanes really kill your experience in this. Bill is still only level 7. Thought Lole is level 11 too, but he's also had pretty casual lanes. And I've spent a long time looking at the shops and wandering around, but... So High Zealot gets rid of Siphon mana. Steak takes Carrion Swarm. And then he unlearns Carrion Swarm.
Our forces are under attack.
And then he takes Carrion Beetles. This kid starts attacking Bill and almost dies for it. There's beetles chasing him. Meanwhile, in mid lane, I came down and murdered these two who had been pushing forever with the assistance of Q. So it's important to note that Q is there for a lot of my kills. His stuns and the fact he's using Windwalk to get ahead of them and then stun them, that has set up a number of my kills at this point. So it's not just that I'm ahead and doing a lot of damage as the result of that. It's that Q is basically feeding me. He ends up getting some of the kills too, but especially early on when he got me the second kill under the towers, it's not a trivial thing that he is there. So Zilla took Spell Amulet. That will not help against me, but I think he will grab the Rune Bracers at some point. Meanwhile, Ricky basically stands there and gets shot. He's not really accomplishing too much. No, they do have sustain. But so do we. HKS died. There's like words and beetles and shit. Level 14 now. If I had realized how much of that experience I was getting off of the beetles, I knew I was getting gold, but like I could get gold anywhere at this stage. But if I had realized how much I was getting off of the beetles, what I would have done is I would have just followed them into any lane they went into and fed off of their summons. Ricky escapes, but Stick does not.
Our allied hero has fallen.
Q exists. Now he has 2 blast staffs. Just chilling out. So as far as creep kills are concerned, I am now at 161. Stick is actually not really that far behind at 118. That's actually pretty impressive. Thyaloli has 53, but the 161, a very large chunk of that is minion kills. Summon kills rather, and I also have 7 hero kills. Q has 1. I have no mana. It's all right. I've got an assistant. Hi, Zealot is sucking Thyaloli's fluids. And Q returns. Lolly tank some towers and some dogs. Definitely got some dogs. I came back with health and mana. The Horde stole my kill. Oh! Also, I died. Ricky crit me, and then the minions killed me. He did like 500 damage or something. And oh, there's 800. What the fuck? Yeah. It's very rare, but when it does happen, it's a lot of damage. It's really stupid. And then on the end of the day, the Alliance stole the kill. You can also really tell a lot by the kills on the minions. A 523 versus 640. That is still equating to experience for anybody nearby. Man, I was looking for Ricky's Peasants in this game, but I never saw them. I wanted revenge. I got it. Yeah, Shadow Strike did help. The slow was nice, but man, the range on it is really short. Zilla almost dies to minions. At this stage, I am almost level 17. Bill is still level 10. Although my ability upgrading at this stage is most certainly not optimal. I should have taken like Stormbolt and perhaps Blink or something. Well, Brilliance Aura is another really obvious one, since mana is becoming quite an issue at this stage. The health difference between me and many members of their team is insane. Also, I really, really hate that auto camera. Yeah, that ability is probably maxed now. The experience difference is really just insane. The kills are giving experience too, but yeah, like even Q is nearly level 15. Ricky appears, but he gets entangled. Ricky is very lucky to survive. One of the things about this hero is that it's kind of hard to see in the middle of a pile of them, because no glow and it's kind of small compared to the others. The same reason I couldn't see Gul'dan either. He also blends in. All the bulbous shapes all look the same in this game. I thought someone might be ballsy enough to run back at low health there, but didn't happen. He walked into it. No, they don't have any CC, but I don't want him to drain health either, because he's sustaining back the damage I'm dealing, and then I'm running out of mana. But the acid bomb is slowly wearing him down, and then he died. I don't think he was paying attention to his health or the fact he had acid bomb on him, although it's really hard to see acid bomb. Man, Bill is still only level 11. It's not like he's dying every time he enters lane. It's just he's not really getting that much experience. Even Ricky is level 13. Maybe the summon kills don't get full experience. I don't know if there's... I'm not really familiar with the way experience works in Warcraft 3. If you get more experience from getting the final blow yourself, I think you just have to be in a certain range and it's full experience. But our minions are 3-3, and theirs are 3-2. And yeah, there's a big difference in the gold too. A lot of my gold is either going into lumber or it's going into creep upgrades, so I wasn't investing a lot into items in this game, which definitely did not help the snowball at all. As a lot of that gold was being turned into pushing power, and their group really doesn't have a lot of wave clear. Zilla died. Zilla tried to tank the wave and died. And then there's Animate Dead and Wards over here, so Thigh Lolly is definitely like an active bulwark against anyone trying to dive me. Meanwhile, Ricky is French and is dead. And yeah, there's nothing they can do at this stage. Like, the minion upgrades in general, 2-2 on the melee, they're pretty far behind on that. They've lost a lot of buildings. They did, I believe, rebuild one at some point. My Shadow Strike, I believe, is level 1. And that building dies. I teleport away. I'm going to restore my health and mana. Artificial Knight, Lameo. HKS is creeping as the support does. Trying to see if his respawn system works, I think. Some of it kind of works, and the other parts of it are fucked. Because LMAO arrays in Warcraft 3 are busted because Blizzard makes good games. Good at the programming. So the summons are also well, they're mid to high level. Zilla died again. I'm not over there. I don't know how Zilla's dying. I feel like Zilla's just like, I'm gonna tank this wave and take a hit from my bong. It's like, oh, I died. But the creeps being so upgraded, yeah, the summons gonna have a hard time. Some of them aren't leveled that much. God, there's so many fucking beetles.
Our allies' town is under siege.
There's some dogs. Meanwhile, Q is like running around.
Our hero has fallen.
Ricky died. Oh, 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 oh. They never got Magic Sentry. So there's just like a cow running around their base peeing on them. Oh! 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 Ricky lives again. Meanwhile, in top lane, HKS is getting sucked. Yeah, they have no magic resist. They never bought magic resist items except for Zilla. And as a result, what you're going to see is I actually can't fight Zilla. I actually did not see him for a while until I realized he was there. You'll see Zilla takes no damage. The minions are killing him, but I can't kill him. And I took too long to try to teleport out. And he died to AIDS. So Zilla was already at a point, even though he's that far behind, that if I don't immediately respond to him, I can't actually kill him. So the power spike is starting to kind of taper off. If the other player is starting to get magic resist, then I would be kind of in a little bit of trouble. But the game is already at the stage where they're so far behind everywhere else on the map that really doesn't help them that much. Zilla is gonna play around with Thigh Lolly, who is kind of fat. Chasing him into the wave. He's dedicated. And Thigh Lolly could have just kept chasing back. Thigh Lolly didn't have the balls to finish the job.
Our forces are under attack. Our allies' town is under siege.
Ricky is down here tanking the wave. Ricky makes no attempt to run from me until it's far too late. And Bill's hanging around with sub 50% health with no magic resist. Yeah. There's no safe play on their behalf at all. I mean, at this stage in the game, they probably just don't really care, right? But it is worth mentioning that I'm basically just taking free kills. Meanwhile, Q is being a pest. 48 armor. What the fuck? He's just like running around and shooting beetles. Oh, the beetles get critical strike. So I basically do nothing to building. So I start like roaming around looking for Ricky. Oh yes, this is them trying to rebuild the building. Stick has AIDS. I can't even stop the building from constructing. I do no damage. Q offers emotional assistance. Mistake still has AIDS. It lasts a really long time. Nobody will give High Zealot 200 gold. Sad times. Sai Loli finally died to Zilla. Ricky is out over there somewhere punching a bird as their bottom lane is getting destroyed by catapults. To be fair, though, it's not like Ricky can really stop this. I was looking around for the peasants, but the peasants died, and I really wouldn't be surprised if it was Q who killed them. Oh, Q is thirsting. The center castle detects him. I found Zilla. Zilla at this point stage does have magic resist. I gave him Shadow Strike and it really didn't do any damage to him. So I kind of like ignore him. Q. I went all the way around and killed Ricky. Ricky didn't even know I was even there. Slurping. That actually does a fair amount of damage. Although the castle might have been hitting me too. Let's take a look at those stats. 218 creep kills. The closest competitor by far is Stake at 157, which is quite impressive. HKS has 20. I have 14 hero kills. Zilla is the only person on their team to have hero kills besides the Alliance. And then High Zealot died to Thai Lole. So that was it. That was quite a fast game. Okay. So, after this game, they were like, oh, Carrion Swarm is overpowered or something like that. And then, well, we'll talk about that discussion in that video. in this game, it wasn't really Carrion Swarm that won it. I could have picked a more optimized build, taken Chain Lightning instead of Shadow Strike. Could have taken Brilliant Sora, had more mana. Could have been a little bit more aggressive with it. But I did take this game more seriously than I do most of the games. I was actually awake this time. My ulcers dealt with, so on and so forth. So I played this better than I might normally. Now, the big thing about this game is that I was fed an absolutely absurd amount of fucking experience and gold. Look at the gold income on our team versus theirs. It's really crazy. So a part of that is because Zilla was in the solo lane for a while, which is why he's at 19.3. But the rest of their team is around 16, 15, 14K. The experience difference in this is crazy. And as a result, HKS is really low because HKS spent a lot of time in the side lanes off killing creep camps and stuff like that. So that's why his experience is really low. The 5 versus 4 means that our team was going to get more experience just in general because there was not usually going to be a lot of people in the same lane early on. The exception being Q were in the bottom. Well, Q and I have the highest experience on our team because summons give experience. It's not just a crazy amount of gold I was getting off of the summons, it was also the experience. Now, the experience difference, having watched the replay now and really paid attention to it, it wasn't as big of a change as I had expected. When I looked at the end of the game, I was like, wow, I really am far ahead in levels. That was in part because of the way I was using mass teleport to attack and clear waves. I wasn't really hyper aggressive with it because I haven't played with mass teleport really that much. But I played enough with it that I knew what I needed to do with it, you know, in specific key cases, like assassinating Ricky, assassinating Hyzella, you know, going whenever other people were fighting, it looked like I could get a kill. You could be really proactive with that, and there was definitely more kills I could have gotten. I could have escaped Zilla if I was really paying attention. You know, you could definitely pick apart my play a lot in this game. But suffice to say, the early mass teleport plus having strong wave clear meant that I could basically, I was turning that early lead into more of a lead, snowballing. And then a lot of that money early on went into creep upgrades. I took the early fortified for the tower, which was a big deal. That slowed down the advance on bottom, even though there wasn't really a lot of contest other than Q down there for a while. And it also slowed down the rest of the lanes as well, although mid started pushing in. One of the other major factors of this game is that they really didn't have wave clear at all. High Zealot took Forked Lightning, which I'm not really sure if it's really that good or not. I've never really looked at that ability, but I think I've tried to use it in the past, and I wasn't really terribly impressed with it. So that might be an ability that you might consider wanting to adjust a little bit, or at least look at the numbers. And I'm talking small adjustments. You know, with the kind of changes that you might make to Carrion Swarm or Forked Lightning or stuff like this, I'm talking in ranges of like 5 to 10. Right, for numbers. If you wanted to increase the mana cost, reduce projectile speed, if you can, for Carrion Swarm, stuff like that, I would be adjusting things in individual numerals. It's very small changes at this point, for reasons I will discuss in the next video. But beyond that, they really didn't have wave clear. Now, they have summons, which should clear the waves. The problem is that the minions get so much armor that the physical damage for the summons really aren't going to be that much higher than other minions. Now, this is up to an extent because it's quite clear that Stake was doing quite well in creep score. Well, it's what the fuck? It says Stake only has 57 units killed in this. But the other things, you know, I wonder if that leaderboard is accounting for the summons dying being a part of the creep score. Do you think that's the case? Because it says HKS has 60 kills on this. And Stake only has 57. That would make a lot more sense. Bill produced 318 units. It's over... It's a little over twice as much as Stake. So I don't know. That leaderboard may not be accounting kills properly. Maybe we shouldn't be looking at that leaderboard for a kill count. But Yeah, 247 is a lot. And I was being quite aggressive about using that. There's just, nobody else had wave clear, really. There wasn't really much in the way of wave clear. The summons will deal damage to minions, but scoring last hits, you really have to micro them to do that. And nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to do that. And their damage is not high enough to make that very easy either. Other than that, there's Acid Bomb, which is the same thing, being a damage over time, actually scoring the kill is low. So that they can push the wave. But clearing the wave, there wasn't really a lot of that on their team. To make matters worse, because they were so far behind in levels, they didn't have the resources to max out those summons. They couldn't get those high levels of summons that have higher stats, deal more damage, and are able to push the lanes harder. So our crepes were maxed out on upgrades, but their summons still had a while to go until they reached optimal strength. So there was a lot of things that were resulting in them getting pushed back. And then there's HKS's auras. And the healing. Now, both teams had healing, so I think that's sort of a null factor. I think the West team had more healing than we did. But when you think about it, having the auras plus the maxed out minions really fucks up their creeps. Zilla had a couple of auras, but I think he went more... he had like spiked armor and stuff like that, so I'm not sure if Zilla ended up taking all the auras. I didn't look. But, yeah... Whenever HKS was actually in the lane... it would push hard against them. You had Ricky, who was basically like, if the crit went off, it's great. Otherwise, he just sort of existed and was French. So their team had ineffectual builds in many cases. You could say suboptimal. And then those builds were further hampered by being really behind. Just because of experience distribution, they would have two-person lanes. And then on top of that, Q set me up several kills early on, which gave me a very, very hefty sum of early gold and early lumber when combined with the summon kills and then the creep kills I was able to secure. I had a lot of creep scored quite early in for this map and my current skill level and certainly my experience at the stage. And all that got immediately funneled into pushing the AoE higher. I could have achieved the same thing with Chain Lightning, honestly, or Shockwave. It wouldn't really have made a huge difference. Carrying a Swarm is arguably more reliable in certain cases. Again, I'm going to talk more about the specific spell comparisons in the next game, because they come out of this game thinking, well, it's overpowered, we're going to abuse it in the next game. And, yeah, you'll see how well that goes. So, the thing is, too, is that while I'm watching the actual replay, I'm noticing that they're playing very unsafe. There's a lot of cases where people are half health or lower and they're running towards me instead of away from me, or they're kind of hanging back. They're just asking to get killed by something, right? It's there. It is a mercy I did not take Stormbolt, Brilliance Aura, and Blink. Because if I did, my kills would probably be twice as high as they are. If I wanted to heavily punish them, and I really should have, I could have gotten so many more kills in this game. I did not realize how far ahead I was until sort of like the middle end of the game when it was already pretty much decided anyways. But I could have, instead of taking Shadow Strike, I could have taken Blink or Boulder, because they only, I think Zilla had a Spell Shield at that point. And nobody got Magic Resist. That's the other thing. While it looks like Carrion Swarm is doing a lot of damage in this, and it most certainly was because of the level difference and the spell upgrade difference, if they take a 1,000 gold item, suddenly that strips off 33% or whatever it is of the spell's damage just like that. You never get that damage back. Ever. It completely guts a large chunk of your hero's spell budget. And suddenly it makes their effective health 33% more. Which means it becomes so much harder to actually kill people with the long cooldowns of spells in this. And then if they take the spell shields on top of it, now you need 2 spells if you want to CC them or apply single target damage like Chain Lightning. So the fact that they did not immediately all rush to get defensive items when it was clear that an offensive caster on the enemy team had that kind of a lead on them invited further disaster. Which also means that if you are going to gut reflex and try to nerf Carrion Swarm in this map, you are going to hurt spellcasters a lot in the long run because it's one of the bread and butter spells of the game right now, and it gets heavily nullified by Runed Bracers and then the Nubile Emu as an extension. So you have to be really careful when you look at a match like this and you think, wow, that's so overpowered. He was like two-shotting people. You got to look at all the aggravating factors of that and then how the people actually played. In my view, a lot of people in this game basically just gave up and just allowed me to kill them. That is what it felt like. Right? Like, I think that it was like mucky on the opposing team. This would have been quite even in spite of my advantage because he usually played a little more safely. Safe play is one of those things that you will see in higher levels of gameplay. One of the things you'll see a lot in lower levels of gameplay is over-aggression, overconfidence, and stuff like that. And that's one of the things you can see with me having not played these kinds of games/maps for a very long time. It's been quite a while since I played League and Heroes of the Storm regularly. And yes, I was Diamonds in Heroes of the Storm. And I was facing off against Masters in League, you know, and going toe-to-toe with them in the lane and oftentimes coming out on top, especially in endgame. And, you know, that was great and all. I had, you know, fairly strong mechanics and I worked well in high-level teams. That was a long time ago. And this map isn't as responsive as that. And a lot of things have happened and my brain has become fogged. And I took the Wu flu vaccine and that will give me brain cancer. So, you know, all along the way, I've lost a lot of stuff and become a lot rustier. But if I really want to play safe in this, I will. And then you will see something like this happen, where I will die a lot less often. I will know when to move forward and stuff like that. Because in League, I tended to play quite safely. And higher level players will usually be relatively safe. Well, you kind of see kind of a weird curve with this. So mainly, you have the early low-level players, which are overly aggressive because they don't understand the game. And then you'll see like silver, low golds, which will start to be more cautious because they've played enough to be punished a lot. But then you're going to see a big curve upwards when you get to about mid-high gold. And then nearing in towards platinum. And these were the players I played against a lot. Players which started to get some basic skills under their belt and started to become better at the game. And then they become really full of themselves because they start curb stomping low-level golds and silvers. Is these players start thinking they're tough shit because they've had a couple of good games. And then they start becoming more aggressive again. They start trying to make big plays. You know, they try to make a name for themselves. Those were a lot of the players I played up against when I was playing with Sir Draken and the other people associated with Riot, who were in, you know, Platinum, Diamond, and then, you know, Masters and some low Masters. Is we would get put up against a variety of skill ranges in the mid to high brackets, from Platinums to Diamonds to Masters. And what you would often see with the Masters and, you know, the people in the lower level professional brackets is a lot more caution. And what would happen when you tell the experience is that they would not get rattled by something. You could play kind of erratically where you have safe and high spots and it wouldn't really upset their tempo. You wouldn't really cause them to tilt. But with a lot of these like platinum, high gold people, is they're very easy to tilt and they can become very overly aggressive because they think they're hot shit. And then you start seeing them making a lot of mistakes that they otherwise would not normally make at their skill level, especially their technical skill level. A lot of these people have like sound technical skills, but they tend to tilt very easily. And Sir Draken and some of the people that played with him were very much like that, where they would be, you know, high gold, platinum, and they did have sound mechanics and a fairly reasonable understanding of the game, but they tended to get really easily tilted, and they would all that would very easily melt. In this game, and within League as well, I definitely had problems. The issues I have is lazy eye and dead eye, in which I kind of like go into a trance, a daydream, because the game travels very slowly, and I stop really like paying attention and focusing. Like the death to Zilla where I really just didn't see him. He's the biggest thing on the map, and I didn't see him, and he's right on top of me. All the bulbous, incomprehensible shapes of these unreadable 3D games all blend together for me. They're all a disaster. And what ends up happening is you just don't see things unless you're really trying to pay attention to them. And I don't really it's hard for me there's nothing really that my eyes really focus on. It's all very difficult to really see what's going on. So then my mind will sort of just drift. I'll enter like a daydream. I'll just kind of like fall asleep. And then I have a much harder time paying attention to what's going on. And then you kind of like snap yourself out of it when something's going on. So as a result, keeping track of the minimap used to be something I used to be okay at. In Heroes of the Storm in particular, where I played a lot more consistently, and working on minimap awareness was really a big thing, especially since I played like Abathur and stuff like that, right? Where you really had to pay attention to where people were looking, if they were looking for you, or if they were heading in your direction, what lanes you wanted to be into, body soak and stuff like that, right? And I did quite well with that, but it's been a while since I played that consistently. Walking into this, I'm not doing too well. But I feel like some of these players like High Zealot have played a lot more than me in the last while, but I'm still seeing them making a lot of fairly basic mistakes like that, in which they're not really like sort of reading the environment correctly, and they would run up to me when they really don't have much of a chance of fighting me at all. Now, again, most of these people are definitely not going to be taking these maps very seriously, but it is something to keep in mind that playing from behind and catching up, that's a challenging skill. And I've had to do that many times because in order to get as good as I was when I was playing this kind of stuff consistently, I had to come back from being behind a lot. Now, we can just look back to StarCraft 2 games. The innumerable times in Warlords and Merchants and other similar maps where I was singled out, often by groups of people, and I was always reduced down to nothing, and I had to come back from that. So playing from behind to win is something I had to deal with just constantly. Just everywhere, just constantly. When I was pit with these high-level teammates, and we get thrust into teams where my mid-lane opponent is their highest rank, and, it's scary as shit. It's really scary as shit because they can be a duo with their jungle. They'll coordinate. They'll get him fed. We will lose the game off of my back, and I don't want that responsibility, right? So you really have to. This is when you really gotta put on your big boy pants and really pay attention and focus. And I went through that a lot. I absolutely went through that a lot. And you really got to just be calm, right? You really got to be calm and manage yourself. And know when to take risks and when not to take risks. Taking risks while you're behind is bad because then you become further behind. And sometimes it's best just to take the L when you, like, for example, are going to lose some towers, or going to lose minions, or going to lose some farm or whatever. In this map, it's not worth dying for nothing because you are giving people lumber. It is not as big of a deal in this as it is in League of Legends or Heroes of the Storm, where, dying feeds a lot. But it is still a big deal in this because it's feeding lumber, and lumber is equating directly to spell power in this specific interaction. So, on the flip side, having Q there, who is able to set me up with kills and synergize, that really catapulted me ahead a lot. That was a very, very effective synergy, and the way that those played out, that's what gave me the early lead. It wasn't just that I was able to get in some kills and I got in some golden experience off of the summons, is that Q was able to set me up with some more kills. So it really it was like feeding your carry. That's basically what it was. If the game had gone on for another 20 minutes and the rest of their team had picked up Ruined Bracers, I feel like they could have been in a chance to pull that around and start pushing against us again, because we didn't really have a lot of wave clear other than me. You mostly had Thigh Loli with the wards and the stuff like that, which Bill and Steak could have dealt with, for sure. So you hit the sort of a power spike moment because of me getting fed and turning that directly into spell damage and taking Maz teleport. But if they were able to play from, a more safe point and not die too much and not lose too many buildings and be more cautious and, maybe invest in some wave clear, then they could have just sat in their base and farmed our waves, gotten back some experience, denied us extra kills, and been in a little bit of a position to at least drag out the game where they could catch up or kill some of the weaker members on my team and, you know, get lumber that way and then come back from that and then be able to purchase some defensive items. So, but we didn't really see that. So, and I don't really expect to see that either. I'm not expecting people in this game to start, really trying to strategically mastermind their way around this. But when people look at a match like this, and they look at the balancing of the game, and they're going to point their fingers straight at, oh, this is overpowered, that's overpowered. It is important to step back and take a note of what leads you to those conclusions and what the actual match looked like. I am not going to say that Carrion Swarm is balanced because I don't feel that it is balanced. But I don't feel that that spell is grotesquely overbalanced. I feel like there's options to deal with it. I feel like there's a few specific interactions that led to the match as it did. First and foremost, the experience and lumber difference was huge. Second, the spells are more readily available because they're recharged on the shops faster. This is so that you can swap spells more readily than you could earlier in earlier renditions of the map. Because before, the cooldown on spells is so fucking long that if you wanted to change your abilities, for example, if I was in their shoes and I wanted to take up a wave clear spell or a stun or something, and I want to swap spells, it would take me 15-20 minutes to get any respectable level within a new spell because of how long it takes the shops to recharge. So that's another thing. Because I was so far ahead, I was able to turn that into more spell slots and upgrades than I normally would have been able to. Then the third thing is their team did not threaten me. The only person on their team who was a threat for me was Zilla after he took up magic resist, because I didn't have escapes, I didn't have CC. And even if I did, I would have needed to have 2 CC spells to CC him. And he was fat enough that the Carrion Swarm just didn't do any damage to him at that point anyways. As far ahead as it was. And I think it was capped at that point. It was just, he could just chase me down and kill me anyways. He would always force me out. So 1 versus 1, that was now an opponent I can no longer fight. If High Zealot took up magic resist with the Holy Light and the life drain, that would be another opponent I would not be able to fight 1 versus 1. I'd have to start avoiding him too, because there would be no point in me dumping my mana on him. At that stage, itemization became an issue for them. The other thing that kind of held them back was really like a lack of focus. Like Ricky being out in the top lane while the bottom lane's spawning buildings are dying. I don't think Ricky really could have done anything about it anyways. I don't think he had the abilities to really stop the minion waves. But if he wanted to stop the minion waves, he should have been there. So 5 versus 4, you expect to see a little more concentrated defense efforts. But we didn't really see that. Q, for example, tends to be quite on the ball game for that stuff. So they do learn a little bit from this game, and then the next match is very different than this. So, but that one is 4 versus 4, not 5 versus 4. So I come out of this match, and I'm going to be very skeptical about it. And it's not just because, I don't want them to nerf my spell because I'm finding it successful. There's a few reasons why I use this spell and why I come back to it. First of all, to me, it's one of the only really reliable wave clears because Flame Strike can be interrupted. And now I learned Impale can be interrupted. And it's all too easy to interrupt those, lose them, lose your mana, get nothing out of it, and be really bummed out, right? So while I've used Flame Strike a couple times and I've had some success with it, I don't usually tend to take it if it's a match where I'm expecting to have to run around a lot because I'm going to interrupt it a lot. And even if I'm trying to focus on it, I'll still interrupt it like 50% of the time. And that's a terrible feeling. It's a really terrible feeling. Other stuff like Shockwave, I don't think it's as good. Now, Shockwave can damage buildings, but I try not to use spells on buildings anyways because I find it's a waste of mana. 2, its radius is not as large. I've been meaning to give Shockwave a try, but I haven't really gotten around to it. And the other spells like Forked Lightning, I have used them in the past, and I did not feel that they were that successful. But I feel like they have been buffed since then, and I'm just not giving them a chance. In the next game, I'm going to use Chain Lightning as my early primary spell. And the big difference I felt between Chain Lightning and Carrying Swarm is that I think that Carrying Swarm actually has a lower spell cost early on in the game. And that is definitely something you could ding if you wanted to try to bring it in line with the other spells. I'll talk about that stuff more specifically in the next video. But I don't feel that it's perfectly balanced. I don't think anything in this map is perfectly balanced. I think that there is still a huge disparity between physical damage and magical damage early on in the game. And again, one of the reasons why I took such a huge lead, it wasn't just because they had summons. It wasn't just because Q gave me kills. It was also because I was raking in creep score. I was raking in minion kills. And early on, it was because I was strategic about my spell casts. But once I got that early advantage and I got the spell levels and I was using it to clear waves, that was directly converted into lumber, gold experience. Meanwhile, everybody else in the map really struggled to get creep score. So they were not raking in the gold at the very least, right? And again, we mentioned the gold turns into creep upgrades or whatever, and then suddenly the map is snowballing even harder than it already was just because you were killing or pushing the waves. So they'd have to play like gods to keep up with that. Because getting creep score with physical damage in a game as clunky as this is very difficult, and also because the minions have so much health and armor. Now, HKS has proposed changing the health and stuff of minions so it's a little easier to get physical last hits on them. I think that would be the right way to go, but then you're going to be looking at rebalancing numbers all across the entire game. Because now you're going to make a lot of spells really strong against them. So then you're looking at stuff like giving spell resistance. You set up a really complicated and very difficult thing to solve. So it's kind of tough. I think one of the things you could do in this is when the Horde and Alliance score a kill, because when we look at the heroes killed for the Horde and Alliance, obviously in this game the Horde has 9 kills and the Alliance is 2. If the Alliance and the Horde score a kill, it should give 1 lumber to the entire team. So then that way, if you get kill stolen, it's not the end of the world, right? I think something else you could possibly look at, like obviously with the creep camps are not really respawning and stuff right now, but something else you might want to look at is having items that deal bonus damage versus minions and creep specifically, a little bit like the jungle items in League. Now, this is a slippery slope because the jungle items in League create really awkward balancing interactions that you could also suck yourself into if you start introducing that into this map. But if there was some kind of item that gave some bonus damage to minions and was, say, like 800 to 1,000 gold, you know, it was something that you didn't get right away, but something you could get with a little bit of money, then someone who is investing more in physical damage and wants to get some last hit minions could pick that up, and then it will pay for you more or less in the mid game and then the late game. But that's the only thing I can really think of other than rebalancing a lot of things, right? The other thing I would like to see, and I will mention this in the next video, is agility biased power budgets on some heroes. So there are very, very few agility ranged heroes in the map in general, and those that typically have balanced strength and agility. And I will mention this next video too, but I'm going to mention it now, is I think that may have been intentional. But that was in a world where tombs and stuff existed too, and that created a lot of issues later on with the way that armor was getting off of agility and things. So I think now that that stuff has been addressed, we can add in some higher damage ranged heroes and maybe adjust some of the melee agility heroes as well and create a few more options in that regard. So we will never achieve perfect balance with this. We can change this stats and stuff of Carrion and Swarm and stuff as much as we like, but there's always going to be something in this, especially with this kind of a map, that's going to cause issues. I've got a bone to pick with every kind of random chance and CC and everything in the map, but I'm reluctant to say take an axe to the whole fucking thing, because if we're going to do that, we may as well start from scratch in an engine that isn't a heaping pile of shit. So within regulation, I think we can certainly look at some of the numbers for some of the spells and adjust them very slightly, and then revisit the subjects later on. Right now, a steady and careful hand is needed when it comes to tweaking a lot of these things, because we do not want to make the same mistakes that Blizzard and Riot made with their games, where completely incompetent and uneducated people who don't even play their own game come in and make pages and pages and pages of changes because somebody complained in Reddit that something was too strong, so they decided to rework half the fucking game and introduce far more problems than there were originally.